When you close your eyes and picture a big scientific breakthrough, maybe in health medicine, what comes to mind? For a long time, it's probably been scientists in labs, right?
Okay.
Maybe even, the whole animal testing thing. It's controversial, but it's been central.
Yeah, the bedrock for discovering new drugs, making sure
yeah.
they're safe for decades.
Exactly. But what if I told you that foundation, that bedrock, is actually going through this huge, transformative shift right now?
It really is.
A shift that's kind of redefining what cutting-edge research even looks like.
It's true. And it's not just, some academic debate anymore. It's a really profound realignment of how we actually pursue health advancements.
Okay.
We're really talking about a move towards, faster science, more relevant science, and frankly, more ethically sound science.
And that's exactly the shift we're digging into today. The focus is this really pivotal event. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, and the National Institutes of Health, the NIH, they jointly hosted this workshop back in July 2025. And the title was pretty bold: Reducing Animal Testing. This wasn't just, another conference.
No, definitely not. It felt like a landmark moment, setting a new course for biomedical research policy, really globally.
So this deep dive, this is basically your shortcut to understanding this huge transformation happening in science.
That's the goal. We want to pull out the most important insights about this, paradigm shift. What does it mean for research, for developing drugs?
Yeah.
And this is crucial, especially for our listeners. What does it mean for the future of science and biology careers?
Right.
The mission is for you to walk away not just knowing more, but really having those aha moments, where complex stuff clicks.
Giving you that edge, yeah. Understand what's coming, maybe for your own path.
Exactly. A real advantage.
Okay, so if this shift is really happening, where did it officially kick off? It wasn't just a quiet memo, was it? Tell us about this FDA-NIH workshop.
No, not quite at all. It was held as a hybrid event, July 7th, 2025. And it was very collaborative. You had broad participation, key players from the regulatory side, FDA, NIH, of course, but also leading industry scientists, academics, even international partners were there.
Okay, so all the major players.
Yeah, it was a really clear, coordinated effort, trying to map out a decisive path forward.
And what seems really striking, reading about it, is this idea that it marked a shift from just talking about it to actually doing something,
Right.
from discussion to execution.
Exactly. It wasn't just more talk about reducing animal testing. It was about outlining how to make it happen, actively.
Okay, so what's driving that? It must be backed by something concrete.
Oh, absolutely. This proactive stance, it's really rooted in recent legislative changes, regulatory shifts. We're talking significant updates, like the FDA Modernization Act 2.0.
Ah, right. I remember hearing about that.
Yeah. And among other things, it explicitly allows using non-animal methods for drug testing.
Yeah.
That's huge. And then there's the FDA's own roadmap to reducing animal testing, which came out just a few months before the workshop, April 2025.
So these are like actual strategic plans.
They are not just suggestions. They're blueprints to speed up the development, the validation, the adoption of these scientifically sound alternatives.
Yeah.
And you can immediately see how this impacts the skills needed for people entering biology careers or trying to advance.
Absolutely.
If you're a researcher in bio, understanding these new frameworks, these new methods, it's becoming essential. Non-negotiable, really.
So we've got the laws changing, the FDA has a plan, but there was also a really big policy update from the NIH that came out of this, something about funding.
Yes. And this is truly transformative for the research landscape, a real game changer.
Okay.
The NIH announced that studies relying only on animal data, they won't be eligible for funding anymore, under new grant programs, that is.
Wow. Okay, that's major.
Think about the ripple effect of that. It's not a gentle nudge, it's a direct financial lever. It forces researchers, basically, to rethink their whole approach right from the grant proposal stage, pushing them towards methods that are more relevant to humans.
So for anyone listening who's in biological research or wants to be,
Yeah.
mastering these new methodologies, it's not just a good idea anymore.
No, it's becoming foundational.
Okay.
Foundational for getting grants, for driving innovation, for having a future in the field, frankly.
That NIH funding change really underlines the seriousness of this. It's putting money where the mouth is, so to speak.
Pretty much.
So with that kind of pressure, let's dig into the why. What are the core reasons, scientifically, practically, that are finally pushing us past these traditional animal models with such, urgency?
That's the critical question.
Right.
And the drivers are, there's several. But the first, and maybe the most compelling scientifically, it's the low predictive power for humans.
That statistic is always shocking. over 90% of drugs that look good in animal trials still fail when they get to human clinical trials.
It's staggering, isn't it?
Yeah.
90%.
Yeah.
Despite relying on these models for decades, the reality is they often just fail. They don't translate to what happens in humans. Either the drug turns out to be toxic unexpectedly, or it just doesn't work.
So it's a fundamental biological mismatch.
It is. It's a disconnect. Animals and humans, we have significant differences. Metabolism, immune systems, organ biology, it's all different. So what works or seems safe in a mouse or a rat? Often it just doesn't hold true for people.
Which means
Huge amounts of time, effort, money poured into models that just aren't giving us the human-specific answers we need.
Right.
It's like trying to navigate London with a map of New York. You're just not going to get where you need to go efficiently.
So it's not just about the ethics then. It's about the science itself being inefficient, sometimes even misleading.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Which leads right into the second big driver, scientific inefficiency. Beyond just not predicting well, animal research is inherently slow. It's incredibly expensive, and the results can be highly variable.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Think about monoclonal antibodies.
Yeah.
Big class of modern drugs, right?
Yeah.
Safety testing for just one of those compounds might need hundreds of animals and cost tens of thousands of dollars.
Wow. Per compound.
Per single compound before you even get near a human trial.
That's an astronomical cost. It must create a huge bottleneck in development.
A massive bottleneck. It absolutely slows down the whole drug discovery pipeline. Delays potentially life-saving treatments getting to patients.
Which is unacceptable when you're talking about cancer or rare diseases.
Exactly. When speed matters, these delays are a real problem.
Yeah.
And thinking about careers again, labs that can switch to faster, more scalable methods, they're going to have a serious competitive edge.
Makes sense. So poor prediction, inefficiency. And then there's the third driver, the one maybe we've all been more aware of for longer.
Yeah, the ethical considerations and the growing public pressure.
Right.
There's clearly an increasing public demand to reduce animal use in science, especially in the US, UK, EU. Modern ethics, plus the fact that we now have advanced alternatives available, it's intensified the scrutiny, rightly so.
And regulators feel that pressure.
Absolutely. Regulators, funding bodies, they're under pressure to support more humane approaches. And now that pressure has translated into actual policy changes, like the ones we've discussed.
It also changes how science is perceived, maybe? Influences how future scientists are expected to work?
For sure. It's really a convergence. The scientific need for better models is meeting this societal value for more humane practices.
Okay, so the why is clear. Demand for change, scientific limits, ethical drivers. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. If we're moving away from animal testing, what are we moving towards? What are these NNAME's new approach methodologies?
Right, NNAMEs. They're basically a whole toolkit, a collection of innovative methods and technologies. And they offer scientifically validated alternatives to the traditional animal tests.
Okay.
Crucially, they're designed to be more relevant to human biology.
Yeah.
And often more efficient, faster, cheaper. They're the direct answer to those limitations we just talked about.
Can you give us some examples? The source materials mentioned a few that sound, well, pretty futuristic.
They do sound cool, yeah.
Yeah.
One of the big ones is organ-on-a-chip systems.
Okay. What are those exactly?
So imagine tiny microengineered devices. They're not just cells in a dish. They actually mimic the structure, the mechanical forces, even the blood flow of a human organ, but on a tiny chip.
Like a mini liver or mini lung?
Exactly. A living model of a human liver where you can test drug toxicity directly. Or a lung chip to study inflammation, all outside the body. It gives you insights into complex human physiological responses that, flat cells in a dish just can't replicate.
Wow. So a functional miniature human organ system, that avoids using a whole animal. That's a huge leap.
It really is. Then you've got 3D cell cultures and organoids.
Organoids, right. Heard a lot about those.
Yeah, they're amazing. These are miniature tissues grown from human cells that actually self-organize. They replicate the structure and behavior of real organs.
So like tiny self-assembling bits of brain or kidney.
Kind of, yeah. They allow for much more complex cell interactions and hopefully better predictive power than those traditional 2D cultures. And this opens up totally new research avenues and, again, careers focusing on developing and using these complex biosystems.
Okay, what about microfluidic platforms? They sound very precise.
They are. Microfluidics uses tiny channels to precisely control fluids. So you can mimic blood flow, nutrient delivery, cell interactions in real time. It
Mhm.
creates a much more realistic environment for cells and tissues, really crucial for accurate drug testing. You get control that's almost impossible in a whole animal.
I'm also seeing technology playing a huge role here, specifically computational and AI models, biology meeting big data.
Oh, absolutely. This is the in silico approach, totally computer-based simulations.
Yeah.
They predict how drugs might move through the body, potential toxicity, how they interact with targets, all based on huge amounts of human data.
Using AI and machine learning.
Exactly. Algorithms sift through genomic data, protein data, clinical trial results,
Yeah.
predicting interactions or toxicities with incredible speed and precision. They can spot subtle patterns that hint at how a drug might really work in humans much earlier on.
And that intersection, bio, computer science, data analytics, that's a hot area for skills now, right?
Huge demand. Professionals who can bridge those fields are really needed.
Okay. And one more, high throughput screening with human cells. Sounds like speed.
It is about speed and scale. Using robotics and automation to rapidly test thousands, even millions of compounds on diverse human cells.
So you can find promising candidates much faster than with
It
animals.
goes way faster. It accelerates that early discovery phase enormously. And the key takeaway for all these NMs, they're not just more humane. They're often faster, cheaper, and most importantly, they seem to be more predictive of human outcomes
Which means better drugs, developed more efficiently.
and getting to patients sooner. That's the ultimate goal.
So these NMs, they're the tools, but how does the FDA actually plan to weave them into the system? What's in their official roadmap?
Right. The FDA's roadmap to reducing animal testing, the one from April 2025, it's pretty comprehensive. Its strategic plan. Its initial focus is quite specific, actually.
Okay.
It's starting with monoclonal antibodies. The plan is to replace the animal testing requirements for those using validated NMs.
And since those are a major drug class,
Exactly. It's a significant starting point, a big chunk of the modern drug pipeline.
and then once that's working, the plan is to expand.
That's the idea. The roadmap clearly lays out a pathway to expand. Apply validated methods to other drug classes, small molecules, even cutting-edge stuff like gene therapies.
So it's a phased scientific.
Very much so. And beyond specific drugs, the FDA is also really focused on infrastructure, meaning improving data sharing, setting clear, robust standards for how you validate a NAM, making sure labs actually have access to these tools.
And the expertise to use them.
Crucially, yes, the expertise, which again creates demand for new types of lab techs, data scientists, specialized researchers.
Now, a key question here. Is this just a U.S. thing, or are other countries on board? Because for drug development, global agreement is vital.
Yeah, absolutely critical. And that's where the global alignment piece of the FDA roadmap comes in. The U.S. is actively working with international regulators, trying to harmonize the guidelines, ensure NAM data gets accepted globally for submissions.
Who are they talking to?
Agencies like the European Medicines Agency, EMA, the UK's D4I, Health Canada, the OECD, they're all actively looking at integrating NAMs, working on standardization.
Okay, so even though this workshop was U.S.-led, the ripple effects could be worldwide, streamlining things across borders.
That's the expectation. This global alignment means innovations validated here under FDA and NIH frameworks could quickly become the international standard.
Which would speed up drug development everywhere. Less redundant testing.
Exactly. A huge boost for efficiency globally. And for anyone thinking about a global career in pharma or biotech, understanding these international shifts, the new standards, it's becoming essential.
It sounds incredibly exciting, really.
It is a very exciting time to be getting into the field.
But, okay, let's be realistic. Any massive shift like this runs into roadblocks. What challenges did the workshop actually acknowledge for getting NAMs widely adopted?
That's a crucial point. And yeah, they were very open about the hurdles. First off, validation and acceptance.
Meaning
NAMs have to be rigorously tested themselves, proven to meet the incredibly high safety and efficacy standards needed for drug approval. It's not a quick process. You need solid scientific evidence showing these new methods are just as reliable or hopefully even better than the old animal models.
So proving a NAM works reliably is a big scientific and regulatory job in itself.
It's a very big job. Then there's education and training.
Right. People need to learn how to use these new tools.
Exactly. Researchers who've used animal models for years, decades even, and the regulators reviewing the data. They all need significant upskilling. How do you design studies with NAMs? How do you interpret the data effectively?
This sounds like a huge educational effort.
It is. For universities, industry, government. But it also creates this huge demand for educators, for trainers, for specialists in these new methods within biology and life sciences.
Yeah.
It's a whole new area of expertise really taking shape.
Okay, validation, training. What else? Practical stuff.
Yeah, infrastructure gaps. Not every lab is ready for this switch yet.
Not right. Equipment, maybe?
Equipment, access to the advanced NAM platform, sometimes just the specialized know how to run them at scale.
Yeah.
Smaller labs, maybe labs in less resourced areas, might lag behind. So building out that infrastructure, ensuring access, that's a big undertaking. It needs investment, collaboration.
And finally, probably the hardest thing to change in any field.
The cultural shift. You nailed it.
Old habits die hard.
They do. Shifting decades of habit, deeply ingrained preferences for animal models. It takes strong leadership, consistent messaging, a real long-term commitment. It's about changing mindsets just as much as changing methods.
But despite all those challenges, the feeling at the workshop was still positive.
Overwhelmingly so, yes. Despite the hurdles, the clear consensus was the scientific case, the ethical case, the regulatory push for reducing animal testing, it's stronger than ever. The challenges are real, they're acknowledged, but they're seen as solvable. The path forward is towards this more efficient, more humane future.
So bringing it all together, what does this mean for us, for the listeners looking ahead at the future of science, technology, maybe our own careers?
Well, that FDA NIH workshop, Reducing Animal Testing, it really does feel like a truly transformative moment for biomedical science. It's a coordinated strategic pivot, moving away from relying solely on animal data, moving towards a future built on accuracy, efficiency, and compassion.
A scientific revolution, almost.
You could call it that, yeah.
And there's that powerful quote from the source material. It really sums it up. With government leadership, scientific innovation, and public support now aligned, the transition to new approach methodologies is not only possible, it is inevitable.
Inevitable. That's the word.
Yeah.
And that inevitability, that's what we really want you to think about. What does this fundamental shift mean for scientific discovery itself? How will it reshape how we develop treatments, making them safer, more effective for humans, getting them to patients faster?
And for those of us in biology or thinking about it.
Yeah, for those of you thinking about a career, or maybe deep into one already, consider the exciting demand this creates. New skills needed: bioinformatics, organ-on-a-chip engineering, computational biology.
The whole landscape of career opportunities is evolving.
It really is. It's an incredibly exciting time for science. It demands new ways of thinking, a renewed focus on human-relevant innovation. It's basically an invitation to be part of a revolution that's going to reshape medicine and scientific careers for generations.